The alarms on Outpost Zeta 9 blared to life, cutting through the usual quiet hum of the station. Red lights flashed across the curved walls of the command center as aliens of different shapes and colors moved with purpose between control stations. "Unknown vessel detected at the edge of our sensor range," reported Trill, a blue-skinned technician with 4 arms that danced across the holographic controls. "It's approaching our position at high velocity." Commander Kelnera, the station's leader, stepped forward. Her tall, slender frame and silvery skin reflected the emergency lights as she studied the main display. 6 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed the information. "Identification?" she asked, her translator converting her melodic language into the standard Confederation speech. "None that matches our database," Trill replied. "Design is completely unfamiliar." Senior diplomat Zixtai moved to Kelnera's side. Unlike the commander's metallic appearance, Zixtai was covered in soft purple fur with long ears that twitched nervously. "We should initiate first contact protocols," Zixtai suggested. "They may be a newly spacefaring species." Kelnera nodded. "Proceed, but maintain defensive posture. Something feels wrong about this approach vector. They're coming in too fast." Zixtai stepped to the communication array and composed a standard greeting message in 17 different formats, hoping one would be understood. The message went out, traveling across space to the approaching ship. Minutes passed in tense silence. "No response," Trill said. "But they've changed course. They're now heading directly toward us." "Raise shields," ordered Kelnera. "Prepare defense systems." The station hummed as ancient energy barriers formed around it. Weapons systems, rarely used in the peaceful Confederation, powered up reluctantly. "We're receiving a transmission," Trill exclaimed. "Audio only." "Let's hear it," Kelnera said. A harsh, unfamiliar voice filled the command center. "This is Lieutenant John Russo of the United Earth Ship Vigilant. We've suffered critical system failures and request emergency docking. We have wounded." The aliens exchanged nervous glances. Earth. The name was vaguely familiar from intelligence reports, but details were classified. "Should we permit it?" asked Zixtai. Kelnera hesitated. The Confederation's principles were clear: aid those in need. But something about this situation made her scales tingle with warning. "Scan them," she ordered. Trill's hands moved quickly, detecting multiple life forms aboard. Biological signatures are strange. Their ship shows damage to propulsion systems, but weapons appear operational. Weapons? Zixtai's ears flattened against his head. Why would a damaged ship prioritize weapons over engines? Kelnera made her decision. "We are bound by our code to offer assistance. Permit docking at the isolation bay. Security team to meet them." The UES Vigilant limped toward the station, a sleek black vessel with clear battle damage along one side. It docked with surprising precision for a damaged ship. Security Chief Rendor, a massive reptilian with armored skin, led 6 guards to the airlock. They waited as the connection sealed and pressurized. The inner door slid open. 5 beings stepped through, walking upright on 2 legs. Their skin was exposed, without scales or fur, in various shades of brown and pink. Their faces were flat with forward-facing eyes and exposed teeth. They wore blue and gray uniforms with strange symbols. "Lieutenant John Russo," said the one in front, extending a hand in an unknown gesture. "Thank you for the assistance." Rendor did not take the offered limb. "Our medical team will attend your wounded." A female stepped forward. "Diplomatic Officer Lisa Grant, we appreciate your help. Our ship encountered an unknown energy field that damaged our systems." The station's scanners worked overtime, analyzing the newcomers. Alerts began appearing on Rendor's wrist device. Endothermic metabolism. Persistence hunter physiology. Omnivorous dentition with carnivore ancestry. Enhanced stamina design. The list continued. Rendor's eyes widened. He had seen these traits listed before, in security briefings about the galaxy's most dangerous predator species. The station's AI reached the same conclusion. Alarms blared again, different from before. Warning: hostile biological signatures detected. Terran presence confirmed. The humans looked at each other in confusion as the security team raised their weapons. The first contact had gone very wrong. Admiral Colvex hurried down the gleaming hallway of the Confederation Central Command. His forelegs moved quickly while his upper body remained perfectly still, a trait of his species that allowed them to flee from danger while keeping their eyes fixed on threats. Today, the threat was not physical but political. Humans had entered Confederation space. The council chamber doors slid open as he approached. Around a large circular table sat representatives from the 27-member species of the Galactic Confederation. Their worried faces turned to him as he entered. "Is it true?" asked Counselor Mira, her translucent skin pulsing with blue light. "Are there really Terrans at Outpost Zeta 9? Colvex placed his data tablet on the table. "I'm afraid so. The UES Vigilant is docked there now. 5 humans are aboard the station." The chamber erupted in concerned voices. Colvex raised his 3-fingered hand for silence. "I have prepared a briefing on what we know about humans. Most of this information is classified, but given the circumstances, all council members need to understand what we're dealing with." He tapped his tablet, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed a human skeleton beside those of various Confederation species. "Humans evolved as pursuit predators," Colvex explained. "While most predator species in the galaxy ambush their prey, humans developed a terrifying alternative strategy. They chase their prey until it collapses from exhaustion." Several counselors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their bodies are designed for efficient cooling through a process called sweating. This allows them to maintain activity for hours or even days without rest. A human can literally run a prey animal to death. The hologram changed to show human hands. Their appendages evolve for both tool use and gripping strength. A human can maintain a grip strong enough to strangle most species, and their fine motor control allows them to create and use sophisticated weapons. Next appeared images of human wounds healing over time. Their regenerative abilities are alarming. Injuries that would kill most species are survivable to humans. They can lose significant blood volume and recover. Broken bones knit themselves back together. Even damaged organs can partially regrow. "Surely this is exaggerated," said a counselor with spines across its back. "I wish it were," replied Colvex, "but there's more. Humans evolved on a death world with extreme temperature variations, high gravity, and dangerous levels of solar radiation. Their bodies adapted to survive conditions that would kill most of us, and perhaps most concerning of all. The hologram showed historical images of human wars. They spent their entire evolutionary history fighting each other. While our species were developing cooperation and harmony, humans were perfecting the art of killing. They've created weapons specifically designed to exploit every biological weakness they could identify." Meanwhile, on Outpost Zeta 9, the tension had decreased slightly. The humans had been escorted to a secure area of the station where they could be monitored. Engineer Paul Martinez had volunteered to help repair the station's communications array, which had been malfunctioning even before the Vigilant's arrival. Security Chief Ren Dor watched with concern as Martinez worked alongside the station's technicians. The human had been working for 18 hours straight without showing signs of fatigue. Most species on the station required rest cycles every 8 to 10 hours. "Don't you need to sleep?" Rendor finally asked. Martinez looked up from the panel he was fixing. "I'll catch some Ziz when we're done. Your people need to send that distress call. And I can help. Coffee's keeping me going for now." Rendor made a note to research what coffee and Ziz were. But what troubled him more was the human's casual dismissal of biological needs in favor of completing a task. It was the behavior of a creature evolved to prioritize the hunt above all else. As Rendor observed Martinez, he noticed something else concerning. The human always positioned himself with clear sightlines to the exits. He always knew where everyone in the room was. His tools were arranged for quick access, almost like weapons. The human was constantly ready for conflict, even while helping. Back at Central Command, Admiral Colvex was finishing his briefing. "And now," he said gravely, "we have received a new report. The humans claimed their ship was damaged, but our scans indicate the UES Vigilant is nearly combat ready. They lied to gain access to our outpost." The council chamber fell silent with dread. Captain Samantha Dawson stepped through the doorway into the meeting room on Outpost Zeta 9. Her uniform was neat despite the chaos of the past few days. 4 armed guards followed her, their nervous energy clear in their twitching appendages. Commander Kel Nera waited at the far end of a long table. The station leader's 6 eyes blinked in sequence as she studied the human captain. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting," Dawson said, taking the seat without waiting for permission. The guards tensed, but Kel Nera motioned for them to stay calm. "Your presence on this station has caused great concern," Kel Nera said. "We have reports that your ship is not as damaged as you claimed." Dawson's face remained neutral. "We experienced genuine system failures. My engineer tells me they appear less severe now because he's been working non-stop to fix them." "And why did you not mention that your species is classified as dangerous by the Confederation?" "We didn't know we were," Dawson replied. "Earth has had limited contact with non-human species. We're still new to this part of space." In another part of the station, Communications Officer Eric Bauman sat with 3 xenobiologists who were studying him with fascination. They had attached small sensors to his temples and wrists. "Your brain activity is remarkable," said the lead scientist, a jellyfish-like being floating in a personal water tank. "The language centers are highly developed." Bauman smiled. "It's just practice. I've always been good with languages." The scientists exchanged looks. One of them played a recording of their native language. Complex clicks and whistles impossible for most species to replicate. "Can you try to repeat this phrase?" asked the jellyfish scientist. Bauman listened carefully, then produced a nearly perfect copy of the sounds. The scientists moved back in surprise. "That's impossible," whispered one. "Your vocal apparatus shouldn't be able to make those sounds." "Sorry," Bauman said. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," replied the jellyfish scientist. "You just said predators adapt to mimic their prey in our language." Elsewhere on the station, Ensign Kyle Morris walked through the civilian area. He had been allowed limited movement to get food from the common area. As he passed a play area, he noticed a small alien child climbing on a structure that looked unstable. The structure began to collapse. Without thinking, Morris moved. His body crossed the room faster than the guards could react. He caught the child with one arm and stabilized the falling structure with his other hand. The entire movement took less than 2 seconds. Alarms blared immediately. Hostile movement detected. Security alert. Guards surrounded Morris, weapons drawn. The child's parent rushed forward, pulling the little one away from the human. "I was just helping," Morris said, raising his hand slowly. The structure was falling. Meanwhile, long-range sensors detected multiple ships approaching the station. They were Confederation vessels responding to the alert about humans. "A battle group is approaching," Kel Nera informed Captain Dawson. "They demand you surrender your ship and crew for security processing." Dawson's expression hardened. "That won't be possible, Commander. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Your ship is damaged." "You don't understand," Dawson said, leaning forward. "We didn't come here by chance. We were running from something." As if on cue, Lieutenant Rousseau burst into the room. "Captain, we've confirmed it. They followed us." "Who followed you?" Kel Nera demanded. Dawson's face was grim. "The reason we were damaged. We encountered a hostile species 3 days ago. They destroyed 2 of our ships before we escaped. We tried to lose them, but it seems they tracked us here." Kel Nera accessed the sensor data on her tablet. The approaching Confederation ships were visible as blue dots. But beyond them, at the edge of sensor range, were 7 red dots moving quickly toward the station. Unknown vessels detected, the station's AI announced, not matching any Confederation or Terran designs. The room fell silent as everyone realized the same thing. Something worse than humans had arrived. The command center of Outpost Zeta 9 was filled with tension. The large screen showed 7 red dots moving toward them. The blue dots representing the Confederation fleet had stopped their approach and were now forming a defensive line. "What are we dealing with?" Commander Kelnera asked Captain Dawson. Dawson's face was serious. "We call them the Kreldor. We encountered them when exploring an uninhabited system. They attacked without warning or communication. You know their name but claimed they didn't communicate." Kelnera's 6 eyes narrowed with suspicion. "We found it in the database of a destroyed research outpost we discovered. The scientists there managed to record that much before they were." Dawson paused. There were no survivors. A message came through from the Confederation fleet. Admiral Vrex, a tall insectoid with gleaming armor, appeared on screen. "Commander Kelnera, our sensors detect unknown vessels approaching." "Explain." Kelnera quickly explained the situation. The Admiral's mandibles clicked with concern. "We have no record of these Kreldor. The humans could be lying to save themselves." "With respect, Admiral," Dawson interrupted, "why would we lead hostile ships to your outpost? That makes no sense." Before the Admiral could respond, the sensors beeped urgently. "The unknown vessels have accelerated," reported Trill from the sensor station. "They'll reach us in 20 minutes. They're ignoring all communication attempts." Admiral Vrex straightened. "We will handle this. The Confederation fleet has 15 ships. 7 enemies pose no threat." Dawson and Russo exchanged worried glances. 20 minutes later, the Kreldor ships came into visual range. They were unlike anything the Confederation had seen before. Each ship looked partly grown rather than built, with organic curves mixed with metallic structures. They moved in perfect unison, like fingers on a hand. The Confederation fleet opened fire first. Their energy weapons struck the lead Kreldor ship, which briefly glowed but seemed undamaged. "Their shields are absorbing our attacks," Admiral Vrex reported, his voice less confident now. The Kreldor responded. Green beams shot from their ships, cutting through the shields of 2 Confederation vessels, like they weren't there. "They've adapted their weapons to our shield frequency," someone shouted. More Confederation ships took hits. 3 exploded in brilliant flashes. On the station, panic began to spread. The remaining Confederation ships tried to regroup, but they were being picked apart one by one. In the command center, Tactical Officer Frank Miller stepped forward. "Captain, permission to speak." Dawson nodded. Miller addressed Commander Kelnera. "Your fleet is fighting conventionally. That won't work against the Kreldor. They adapt to predictable attack patterns." "And what do you suggest?" Kelnera asked, desperation in her voice as another Confederation ship exploded on screen. "Let us help. The Vigilant can still fight." 1 damaged human ship against 7 Kreldor vessels, Admiral Vrex scoffed from the view screen. "What difference would that make?" Miller's expression remained serious. "Humans don't fight like you do. We specialize in asymmetric warfare." "What does that mean?" asked Kelnera. "It means we fight dirty," Dawson explained. "We exploit weaknesses. We use surprise and misdirection. We change tactics constantly to prevent adaptation." Another Confederation ship exploded. Only 6 remained against 7 untouched Kreldor vessels. Admiral Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of stress. "We are failing. I cannot refuse help, even from humans." Dawson turned to her crew. "Miller, get back to the Vigilant. Power up all systems. Russo, you're with me." As they prepared to leave, a small Kreldor ship detached from one of the larger vessels and headed directly for the station. "They're sending boarding parties," Russo said grimly. Commander Kelnera looked at the humans with new eyes. The predators she had feared might now be her only hope. "What are your orders, Captain Dawson?" she asked. For the first time since arriving, Dawson smiled. It was not a comforting expression. "Now," she said, "we show you how humans really fight." The UES Vigilant detached from the station with a hiss of airlock seals. Despite its damage, the ship moved with surprising speed and grace. On the bridge, Captain Dawson sat in her command chair. Her crew worked with calm efficiency that impressed the alien observers watching from the station. "Miller, what's our weapons status?" Dawson asked. "Main guns at 70%. Missiles fully loaded. Point defense ready," Miller replied without looking up from his console. Dawson nodded. "Good. Begin Operation Hornet's Nest." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Russo led a different mission. He stood in the station's main cargo bay with two other humans, Specialist Kelly Howard, a woman with short brown hair and focused eyes, and Petty Officer Doug Rivers, a broad-shouldered man checking equipment in a large backpack. Commander Kelnera and Security Chief Ren Dor watched with concern as the humans opened several crates brought from their ship. "What are those?" Ren Dor asked, pointing at the black suits the humans were putting on. "Combat exoskeletons," Russo explained, stepping into what looked like a second skin made of matte black material. "They enhance our strength and protect against damage." "And those?" Kelnera pointed at the weapons. "Multi-purpose assault systems," Howard said, checking a rifle-like weapon with glowing blue lines along its barrel, adaptable to different situations. Rivers grinned as he strapped several small devices to his belt. "And these are surprises for our friends." Kelnera and Rendor exchanged worried glances. The equipment made the already dangerous humans look even more lethal. "What is your plan?" Kelnera asked. Russo activated his suit, which hugged his body like armor. A helmet formed around his head, leaving only his face exposed. "The Kreldor boarding craft will dock at Airlock 7 in approximately 5 minutes. While the Vigilant distracts the main fleet, we'll allow the boarding party to enter, then follow them back to their ship and place a virus in their command systems." "That's suicide," Rendor said flatly. "It's our specialty," Rivers replied, checking the small computer on his wrist. In space, the Vigilant was already executing Captain Dawson's plan. Instead of joining the battle line with the remaining Confederation ships, the human vessel darted between the Kreldor ships, firing quick bursts at different targets before changing position. "What are they doing?" Admiral Vrex demanded from his flagship. "They need to coordinate with our forces." "I think they're being." A Confederation tactical officer searched for the word. "Bait." The Vigilant's erratic movement was drawing fire from multiple Kreldor ships, creating confusion in their previously coordinated attack pattern. 2 Kreldor vessels collided trying to target the nimble human ship. Back on the station, the Kreldor boarding craft docked at Airlock 7 as predicted. Station sensors showed 12 large life forms entering. They looked like... Trill studied the readings, some kind of insect-reptile hybrid, heavily armored. Russo nodded. "They're drones, part of a hive mind. Each one is connected to the others, and to their main ship." The 3 humans moved to an intersection where they could observe the Kreldor without being seen. The aliens were tall, with segmented armor and 4 arms, ending in both claws and tool-like appendages. They moved with mechanical precision. "Ready?" Russo asked his team. Howard and Rivers nodded. "Remember, our goal is their ship, not fighting these drones. We avoid engagement unless necessary." With that, the humans activated something on their suits that bent light around them. They didn't completely disappear, but became hard to see clearly, like heat waves over hot ground. Rendor and his security team watched in amazement as the humans slipped past the Kreldor boarding party without being detected. "They hunt like shadow predators from the Crimson Moons," one guard whispered with fear and respect. Outside, the battle continued. The Vigilant took a serious hit, and part of its hull began to glow red from damage. But the small human ship had succeeded in disrupting the Kreldor formation, giving the Confederation fleet a chance to regroup. Admiral Vrex watched the tactical display with growing respect. These humans fight like nothing I've seen before. As the battle raged, Russo's team reached the Kreldor boarding craft. They slipped inside just before the airlock closed. The craft detached from the station, carrying both the Kreldor drones and 3 hidden human predators back toward the main fleet. The hunt had begun. Inside the Kreldor ship, Lieutenant Russo and his team moved through dark, organic-looking corridors. The walls pulsed with faint blue light. The air smelled strange, like ozone, and something rotting. "This place gives me the creeps," Rivers whispered, his hand tight on his weapon. Howard checked a small device on her wrist. "Command center should be 2 levels up. We need to plant the virus directly into their main system." They found what looked like a vertical tube with a glowing field in its center. Kreldor drones floated up and down through this field. "Gravity lift," Russo said. "Let's go." The humans stepped into the field one by one and felt themselves being pulled upward. They emerged on an upper level and quickly moved into the shadows as a group of drones passed by. Meanwhile, the space battle had grown more intense. The UES Vigilant continued its erratic movement patterns, but more Kreldor weapons found their mark. The ship's hull glowed in several places from damage. "Shield generators 3 and 4 are down," reported a crew member on the Vigilance bridge. "Hull breach on Deck 5, sealed by emergency systems." Captain Dawson's face showed no fear. "Continue evasive pattern Delta. Direct all power to forward weapons. Target the lead ship's propulsion system." The Vigilant spun and fired a concentrated beam at the largest Kreldor vessel. The alien ship shuddered as the beam hit a previously damaged section. For the first time, one of the Kreldor ships showed signs of serious damage. "They did it," exclaimed a Confederation officer watching from Admiral Vrex's flagship. The humans found a weakness. Admiral Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly. "All ships target that same location on all Kreldor vessels. They must have a similar design flaw." Back on the station, Engineer Paul Martinez was working frantically. Around him, a group of alien civilians huddled in fear as the station shook from nearby explosions. "What are you building?" asked a young alien child with feathers instead of hair. Martinez smiled as he connected wires to a strange device made from spare parts. "Something that might help us if those bad guys get inside." He had taken apart communication systems, medical scanners, and even food replicators to create makeshift weapons and barricades. The aliens watched with a mixture of fear and fascination at how quickly the human turned everyday items into tools of war. On the Kreldor command ship, Russo's team had found what they were looking for. The central chamber was filled with pulsing light and strange, fleshy computer terminals. At the center was a large crystal structure floating in a column of energy. "That's it," Howard said. "The hive mind nexus. All ships are connected through it." Rivers set down his pack and began assembling a device. "I'll need 3 minutes to prepare the virus package." Suddenly, alarms blared. A door opened, and 5 Kreldor drones entered, their 4 arms raising weapons. "Cover him," Russo shouted, firing at the drones. His weapon fired strange projectiles that expanded into nets of energy, wrapping around 2 drones and sending them crashing to the floor. Howard's rifle fired pulses that disrupted the drone's armor, making it brittle enough to shatter with follow-up shots. But one drone got through, slashing at Rivers with a blade-like limb. Rivers cried out as the blade cut deep into his leg. Blood splattered across the floor. "I'm hit," Rivers shouted, still working on the device despite the injury. "Need more time." Russo grabbed a small sphere from his belt and threw it at the remaining drones. It exploded in a flash of blinding light, freezing the drones in place for precious seconds. On the Vigilant, Captain Dawson received an urgent message. "Russo's team is in trouble. Rivers is wounded, and they're surrounded." Dawson made a decision instantly. "All power to engines. Take us in close to the command ship. We'll make a hole for them to escape." The damaged human ship turned directly toward the largest Kreldor vessel, accelerating despite the warnings flashing across every control panel. It was a kamikaze run, a desperate move to save their team. "What are they doing?" Admiral Vrex asked in shock as the Vigilant sped toward certain destruction. The answer came from a Confederation officer who had been studying human history. "They're following a human principle. No one left behind." The UES Vigilant raced toward the Kreldor command ship, its damaged hull glowing from the stress. Captain Dawson stood firm on the bridge as warning alarms blared around her. "Collision in 20 seconds, announced the ship's computer. "Fire all remaining missiles at these coordinates," Dawson ordered, highlighting a section of the Kreldor ship on the targeting display. "Then pull up at the last possible moment." Inside the alien vessel, Rivers finished connecting his device to the crystal structure despite his bleeding leg. "Virus package ready," he gasped. "Activating now." The device lit up with pulsing lights that matched the rhythm of the crystal. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal's blue glow turned purple, then red. All around them, Kreldor drones began to twitch and move erratically, as if confused. The ship's lighting flickered. "It's working," Howard shouted. "We're disrupting the hive mind." Russo helped Rivers to his feet. "Time to go. Can you walk?" Rivers gritted his teeth. "I'll manage." Just as they turned to leave, a massive explosion rocked the ship. Through the viewport, they saw the Vigilant unleashing everything it had at the Kreldor vessel's hull. A huge hole appeared, exposing the corridor that led to their position. "There's our exit," Russo said with a grim smile. The Vigilant pulled up just before collision, its underside scraping against the Kreldor ship. A docking tube extended from the human vessel toward the breach. "Crazy humans," Howard laughed as they made their way toward the opening. Behind them, more drones appeared, but they moved clumsily now, their coordination broken by the virus. Back at Outpost Zeta 9, everyone watched in amazement as the Kreldor fleet began to falter. Ships that had moved in perfect unison now drifted apart, their attacks becoming disorganized. "The virus is spreading through their network," explained Admiral Vrex, watching the tactical display. "All Kreldor ships are connected." The humans found the perfect weakness. The Confederation fleet, though reduced to just 4 ships, pressed their advantage. One by one, the Kreldor vessels were disabled or destroyed. On the station, Martinez's makeshift defenses proved unnecessary. The few Kreldor drones that had boarded suddenly collapsed, their connection to the hive mind severed. A cheer went up in the command center as they saw the Vigilant moving away from the damaged Kreldor command ship, trailing debris but still intact. Moments later, the command ship exploded in a brilliant flash. "They made it," Commander Kelnera said with relief. Hours later, as the station began repairs, a formal meeting was called. Admiral Vrex had come aboard, along with representatives from the surviving Confederation ships. Captain Dawson and her crew, including the wounded Rivers on a floating stretcher, represented humanity. "Today, we witnessed something remarkable," Admiral Vrex began. "When faced with a superior enemy, it was not our numbers or technology that saved us. It was the unique approach of our—" He paused, mandibles clicking as he searched for the right word. "Our human allies." Murmurs spread through the room. The word allies had never been used for humans before. "The Terrans demonstrated qualities we initially feared," continued Vrex. "Their predatory instincts, their capacity for violence, their relentless determination. But today, those same qualities protected us all." He turned to Captain Dawson. "I am recommending to the Confederation Council that humans be reclassified, not as hostile predators to be feared, but as valuable allies to be welcomed." Dawson nodded respectfully. "We would be honored, Admiral. Though I should warn you, we're still predators. We're just very choosy about our prey." That brought nervous laughter from the aliens present. 1 month later, Outpost Zeta 9's systems were fully restored. New protocols had been added to all Confederation defense networks. When sensors detected an approaching Terran ship, the warning no longer read "hostile detected." Instead, it displayed "Allied vessel approaching. A Terran warship stands with us." And across the galaxy, that message brought not fear, but hope. For the predators of Earth had found their place, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The hunters had become guardians, and the stars were safer for it.